She just joined.
Okay, thank you. Great. I'm going to call our meeting to order. In accordance with the state's sunshine law, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending a notice of the time, date, location, instructions for remote access, and making public comment, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting on January 8th, 2021 and June 4th, 2021, to the Home News Tribune and the Times, posted on the district website, placed in the board office and each of the district schools, and sent to Plainsboro and West Windsor public libraries and Plainsboro and West Windsor township clerks. So prior to logging into this meeting, the Board of Education logged into another Zoom meeting to celebrate our school district retirees, our Educators of the Year, and the West Windsor-Plainsboro Education Foundation grant recipients. It was an honor for us to recognize these outstanding educational leaders tonight. So as we begin our meeting tonight, I just wanted to, along with my board colleagues, to extend our congratulations to all the honorees. It was an incredibly impressive group of educators, and we are grateful for the positive impact you have made on our students and in our school district. And with that, I will turn it over to our superintendent, Dr. David Adderholt, for his comments tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Cation. Good evening, everyone. To echo Ms. Cation's comments, again, my congratulations to all our retirees, the award winners, our Educators of the Year, and our Education Foundation grant recipients. I also want to just thank the Education Foundation for all the work that they've done. I've had the opportunity, and I know Ms. McEwen has had the opportunity to attend their meetings throughout the year, and to thank them for carrying on this work during the pandemic in service of our community. We had the opportunity to meet last week to talk about next year's grant recipients and review applications. And again, an impressive list of applications were submitted by our educators, and credit to them for taking the time to do that in service of their kids during their students during the pandemic and everything that's been going on at this time in the year. As Ms. Cage said in the previous, there's 47 retirees tonight. That represents 1,129 and a half years of service to our community. And Ms. Kamel, if I have it correct, that's the most ever we've had in a retiree class and for years of service at any one time. And just a tremendous credit to all those individuals for the work and service that they've done. I wanted to just touch on a couple topics in addition to the congratulations to all those individuals for the district celebration. I also want to just thank Ms. Kamel and her staff and Mr. Jenkins for the work they did in putting the video together. As you can imagine, it's not easy to navigate such an event in a virtual world. And they took it up a step with creation of video this year versus the PowerPoint of last year. And that takes a lot of extra lead time and work. Pictures were submitted by staff members, or we used their photos. So it was fun to see photos over time for those that chose not to submit a photo for themselves. That being said, we should also note at the beginning of this, so we don't forget later, that this is our last virtual meeting. The June 22nd board meeting will be at Grover Middle School. Now, many of you know for the last 5 years, 5 years, we'll say, with the pandemic, we didn't have any in person. So 5 years we were at the multipurpose room at the board office. Because of the social distancing requirements, because we wanted to make sure that we could spread out and have a little additional space, we have selected to go back to Grover Middle School. We have posted that. We'll be at Grover for the near future. So we posted for June 22nd through the January meeting, which is our next 6-month slate of meetings. It's our anticipation to be at Grover. That could change if the health requirements change. But for now, we want to make sure that we honored the health of the individuals on this call, the health of the individuals that attend the meetings, and just to make sure that we had a little extra space to socially distance. There will be some nuanced changes with how we have to set up the structure. But for the most part, the meetings will run identically to how they are. The only difference, of course, is with public comment. For public comment, everyone needs to come in person. Now, we will stream the videos live, and we have been working to make sure that that is going to be flawless and it will work. And we're also doing it sort of at this time period to make sure it does work. We'll also videotape it and post the videotape, as we always do, aftermath of the meeting, to make sure that there's a video record of it. So we'll stream it live, and we'll have a documented evidence on the website of the meeting for those that can't attend the meeting. So that will be done. Again, public comment will have to be in person. And again, just wanted to make sure everyone knows that it's a 7:30 start. You sign up when you get to the podium and you make your public comment. There's 2 opportunities for public comment. There is public comment that's done first opportunity, and then second opportunity at the end. If someone selects, there are windows of time available to both public comment windows. Submitted written comments will not be read. Like in the virtual world, it is read. In a normal board meeting, it is not. However, it is entered into record. So we would, if anyone wants to still write to us, you're welcome to do so. And we do keep evidence of the public communication regarding communication on something like that if it's submitted for a board meeting. The mask mandates have been a point of confusion. And just the other day, our governor confused the matter even further and then said a clarification today. Governing by tweet is not a way to run anything. I think we've learned over time. So what I will say is, with excessive heat not defined, there is some flexibility being granted to school administration about inside buildings. What I will say about WWP is, families have made their selection based on health protocols that we have in place. We are 100% air-conditioned facilities, very different than facilities all over the state, which is also part of the reason why districts are asking for leniency right now. We do not have conditions which we believe are concerning with respect to breathing with the masks inside because of the air conditioning that's available in our schools. So our masks will be enforced as we've had in the buildings. That will continue for the rest of this year. And then we're going to reevaluate based on the guidance that comes forward for the fall. With that being said, if students in classes, teachers are going outside, and they are going outside for recess, they are going outside for their PE class, we are allowing, with social distancing, masks to come off, especially when students are exerting. We do participate with our lighting, and we are taking sustainable practice seriously. So if I don't move or flail, apparently the lights are going to turn off on me. So again, we do take this seriously with respect to the aerobic exercise and the movement. So if students are outside, we are allowing, again, with social distancing, the mask to come off during this time period. You will also see if our PE teachers are outside, we're going to say the same thing to them, because if it's 95 or 93 outside and they're out for class, as long as we're socially distanced and we're maintaining it, everyone's gonna have a mask in hand if we need to mask back up. But we're just trying to be reasonable and responsive. Just know that you will hear things happening across the state on this, because some districts today issued a mask optional policy. We are not doing that as a district. We are following Executive Order 175. We are following the public health guidance of our local, state, and CDC, which still says indoor masking. Want to say a big thanks to the board for the tent over at High School North. I will at some point share some pictures, but I just want you to know how well that's been received by our community, how well that's been received by our students. Had the opportunity to attend the North Prom, the South Prom, the North Play, some of the award ceremonies that have been taking place there. I'll be heading to the South Play after this meeting. Just tremendous utilization going on. Amazing experience. Kids are extremely happy to reconnect with one another, and extremely happy to be able to have some normalcy of activities outside in a safe environment. And I've just been blown away by the mask compliance of our students. They don't even question it. They're just doing it. They're just happy to be together. The tent really made that happen and made that possible. So a real big thank you to all of you. I know our building administration and our students are very grateful. And the last thing I just wanted to mention is tonight we have 3 recommendations coming to the Board of Education for administrative hires. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just say a couple words about the 3 individuals on this evening. I'm pleased to recommend for the new assistant principal at Millstone River School. And Millstone River, just for the scorecard, is a vacancy that occurred because of the promotion to principal for Dr. Aaron Falk to the principal of Town Center upon the retirement of Janet Bose. So we went through a process, and I'm pleased to recommend Jennifer Braverman as the next assistant principal for Millstone River School. Jennifer will join Millstone upon the vacancy created by Aaron, and she joins us from the Hamilton Township School District, where she's began her career as an elementary teacher and has served the last 18 years as a school counselor. When I spoke to Dr. Rocco about Jennifer's appointment, He could not be more glowing in his recommendation and said, just hands down, one of the finest counselors Hamilton has. If we had assistant principals at the elementary schools, she would be the first one to be hired. And he couldn't speak more glowingly about her appointment and the service to Hamilton. So we're very excited to get Dr. Braverman to join, Jennifer Braverman to join us. As you know, we have posted an appointment for Assistant Director of Technology. And so the tech is constantly expanding. Our systems, our networks, everything is connected. And I mean everything from our HVAC systems to our HR databases, to our security networks, to our financials, to student databases, you name it. And I'm really pleased to recommend Peter James, current assistant principal at Community Middle School, former assistant principal of High School North, former supervisor of math and sciences over in the Hopewell Valley Regional School District, 13-year administrator. Peter just brings a wealth of knowledge, one of our go-to people for everything testing and scheduling. Very excited for Peter's recommendation this evening, and congratulate him on that appointment. And lastly, as you know, we have the retirement of Dennis Leppold over at High School South. Had the great opportunity to work with the South staff, 3 different committee meetings, surveys, PTSA meetings, student rep meetings, had 50 students on a call one night with Mr. Coburn. Real thank you to Mr. Coburn. We had 14 members of the South staff involved in the interview process, PTSA representation, student representation. And after much of the interview process, internals and externals, I'm pleased to recommend Jessica Sincata, current High School North assistant principal, as the next principal of High School South. Jessica brings with her 12 years of experience as a school administrator. Before being a school administrator, she had the opportunity to serve as a choir and band teacher. She's taught internationally in Paraguay and Bolivia and Thailand. She's multilingual. She is just a remarkable member of our school community, and she is the co-chair of our district equity committee. And has been part of our equity committee for the past 4 years, and just recently asked to be one of the 2 co-chairs upon the official appointment of the goal by the Board of Education in February. So Jessica and Sue Totaro co-chair that committee with Anthony Jones and James Earl. So a real congratulations to those 3 individuals for their appointments and recommendations to the board tonight. I will say, for those keeping score, we have 6 openings now in the administrative team. We do have the assistant superintendent for pupil services, vacated by my colleague James on the call, going to be the superintendent of Trenton. We have the director of special services still remaining from the upcoming retirement of Karen Slagle. We have the 2 assistant principals that I just named because we appointed people, roles, Peter and Jessica. And we have the assistant principal of Grover that's open, and an assistant director of building and grounds. I expect at the next board meeting, 4 candidates coming forward for 4 of those positions is my anticipation. Could be 3, might be 4. We're on track for 4, so see if we can pull it off. I believe that's the end of it. I know it's a lot of an update, but I want to let everyone know what's going on. So thank you for your time, and I will turn it back to you, Ms. Case.
Thank you, Dr. Adderhold. First opportunity for public comment. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who submitted written comments to the board secretary prior to the submission deadline for this meeting, and from those who have signed up on the form to comment via video and/or audio, which was open and available on the district website up until the start of this first opportunity for public comment. Any written comments that were submitted prior to the deadline for this meeting will be read aloud by the board attorney for 3 minutes in accordance with board policy 0167. Members of the public who did not submit written comments and who have signed up will be offered the opportunity to make their comments via video and/or audio. Members of the public will not be permitted to submit both written comments and make additional comments via video and/or audio. Each comment should be directed to the presiding officer, not individual members of the board, and must be made in accordance with the procedures and 3-minute time limit set forth in board policy 0167. If the comment extends beyond 3 minutes, speakers will be asked to conclude their comments and may be muted by the moderator. Once an individual has finished their comment or their 3 minutes has expired, their video and audio will be turned off by the moderator. This public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes.
So this evening, there are 8 public comments for the first session, 3 written, 5 video. We'll start with written, so I'll share screen and Mr. Kachese will take it from there.
Sorry, I apologize. This is difficult to see. Right, the first comment is from Angiris Arya, 18 Indian Run Road, Princeton Junction, to whom it may concern. As one of the nearly 1,500 signatories of this open letter for Asian American and Pacific Islander Studies in New Jersey Public Schools, see below for the link, I strongly recommend, quote, the thoughtful and comprehensive inclusion of Asian American and Pacific Islander Studies, unquote, in our curriculum. I would also like to express my appreciation for the teachers and students who organize educational activities for Pan-Asian American History Month for high school students, and I hope that this will be a district-wide event in the future. Our students deserve the best education we can offer, but their education will remain incomplete as long as we ignore the countless Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders whose struggles and contributions have been an inextricable part of American history. As the letter states, quote, many educators are already embarking on this work. We must all learn and recognize that AAPI history is American history, end quote. I stand in solidarity with the letter's authors and strongly urge you to include AAPI studies in the WWP curriculum. Sincerely, Angiris Arya, parent of 2 children in the WWP school district. Okay, next comment is, oh, sorry. Looks like Lori Marabella, 9 Park Hill Terrace, West Windsor. I wanted to follow up on my comment and Dr. Nathan's response from the last BOE meeting, as the curriculum committee is scheduled to meet next week. I hope the members will be asking, one, if the COGAT test provides such valuable information, why is its use limited to identifying and providing services for students in math only? Is verbal score not equally as valuable? If District Policy 2464, which largely restates New Jersey's Strengthening Gifted and Talented Education Act, requires that, quote, the parent of any student identified as gifted and talented shall be consulted regarding any program designed to address the student's particular needs, end quote. Are parents actually receiving notification and consultation from the district? Also from the policy, quote, the superintendent or designee will develop and document appropriate curricular and instructional modifications used for gifted and talented students, indicating content, process, products, and learning environments, end quote. Have modifications been developed and documented? If so, how are they communicated? Where can the required complaint process be found on the district website? Thank you, and I'm appreciative of the time Dr. Nathan has offered to discuss my concerns about the middle school language arts program. We then have Latoya Edwards, 249 Robbinsville, Edinburgh Road, West Windsor. As the school year comes to a close, I just wanted to say thank you to the school board, Dr. Adderhold, administrators, teachers, and staff. This was not an easy school year. We started this school year still in the midst of the pandemic. Tensions and fears were running high, yet you all worked tirelessly to ensure a smooth transition to remote and/or hybrid learning for our students. Thank you for keeping parents informed and making the tough decisions. As a parent, I am so happy this school is coming to a close. AAPSG will be offering their annual summer math program virtually again starting in July. Students will have the opportunity to take math classes taught by WWP teachers. Please check the virtual backpack and/or the school website for more details. Thanks again, Latoya Edwards, President, African Americans Parent Support Group.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for reading those comments, Mr. Chikese. And thank you to the people who submitted those comments.
And there are, as I mentioned, there are 5 members of the public that have asked to speak. And so I will send an invite one at a time, obviously, to the speakers in the order in which they signed up. When you receive the invite, please, it will be asked to move to panelist. I will promote you to panelist. You'll have to accept. You'll appear on the screen. You'll have 3 minutes. And then when your comments are done, I have to move you back to attendee. I'll move you back to attendee, and then I'll move to the next individual, do the same process. So forgive me, it takes a couple seconds in between each person to do this. So the first individual that up is Connie Illangonvin. And Connie, just give me a moment to find you in the attendee list, and then I'll send you a link momentarily. Connie just sent the link, so you should have an invite for promote to panelist.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you all for the excellent job you've done during the pandemic, and I really appreciate your efforts in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm Dr. Connie Illangonvin. I'm a mother, a psychiatrist, and a member of Make Us Visible New Jersey, a coalition of students, parents, educators, and community members advocating for the inclusion of Asian American and Pacific Islander studies into the K-12 curriculum for New Jersey public schools. During the pandemic, there has been an increase in the already elevated rates of anti-Asian discrimination, which is impacting the mental health of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders who report increased distress, anxiety, and depression related to racism. In New Jersey alone, reported bias incidents against AAPI individuals rose 82% from 2019 to 2020, and almost 25% of all reported bias incidents occurred in K-12 schools. That's more than any other type of location. And given that bias incidents often go unreported, these numbers likely represent only a small fraction of the incidents involving New Jersey's young people. We believe it's vital to focus on prevention and education by emphasizing what an integral part of this country Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have been and continue to be. Changing our public school curricula is an important place to start that work. We must correct the absence of Asian American and Pacific Islanders in our narrated history in schools. Our exclusion does not reflect the full breadth of American history, and therefore leaves all students inadequately prepared for a society of deep-rooted diversity. As Attorney General Grewal says, in schools, students take note of whose stories and histories are taught and valued in the curriculum and whose are not. That's why it's so critical that we educate all our kids about AAPI stories and history, alongside the stories and history of other communities that have all too often been overlooked, marginalized, or even worse, been subject to mistreatment and injustice during their course of our collective history as a nation. When our children grow up seeing themselves represented in their class lessons, they are more confident, more creative, and more curious. This inclusion builds awareness to fight racism, violence, and disparities in our communities. In this way, teaching Asian American and Pacific Islander studies can be part of a strategy to address the wave of pandemic-related racism and anti-Asian violence. According to the National Education Association, a diverse and representative education produces stronger learning outcomes, improves test scores, and better addresses the social and emotional needs of the whole student, of every student. Including AAPI studies in our K-12 curriculum builds stronger, more creative, and more empathic students who are better equipped to meet our country's present and future struggles. As educator Tanya Carmel said, our school curricula need to be windows into Asian American lives and cultures for our students to gain respect and understanding of Asian American contributions. Our curricula also need to be mirrors in which our students can see themselves appropriately reflected. There's much work to be done to make our school curricula adequately global and truly multicultural in perspective and content. And I also wanted to thank you for doing the Pan-Asian American History Month. That was a really great start, and I hope that'll happen in every school. And I hope it won't only be that 1 month. I think it's important for our kids to know, I didn't know until
I need you to finish your comment because your 3 minutes has expired. So just finish up, okay? Thank you.
I didn't know until this last month that Asian Americans have been here since 1580. So, there's a lot of history we don't know, and it's important to know. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Connie. I'm going to move you back to attendee. Our next speaker is Christina Jenk. Christina, I'll send you a link in a moment. Christina, the link was just sent.
Hi there. My name is Dr. Christina Jenk. I also represent Make Us Visible New Jersey. I'm so pleased to hear about the diversity and equity inclusion initiatives that have been, that West Windsor-Plainsboro School District has been embarking on. Also pleased to hear about the great response that WWP has given for the pandemic. I am a proud alumni of the West Windsor-Plainsboro Public Schools. It has given me an excellent education. I am now a development economist and a former college professor of economics and political economy. I had the privilege of teaching at an American university in East Asia, and it is my lived experience as an Asian American from West Windsor that motivates me to speak about the importance of infusing New Jersey and West Windsor-Plainsboro's public school curricula with the legacies, contributions, and histories of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And it's not just about the rise in hate crimes and bias incidents. It's also about the crisis of invisibility among the AAPI community that is not only leading to these hate crimes, but also to often under-detected mental health crises among the AAPI student population. About 19% of Asian American high school students report considering suicide, and suicide is the #1 cause of death among Asian Americans aged 15 to 19. It is directly related to the invisibility of Asian Americans in various aspects of American life, particularly in public school curricula. I ask the board to consider immediately taking the steps, particularly professional development for teachers, to include and infuse the curricula with legacy stories and contributions of Asian Americans. I understand there's a statewide initiative to improve the socio-emotional support for students. And one direct way to address the crisis of mental health among API students is to tell the stories of the important and valuable contributions of Asian Americans. I also want to emphasize that international experience and multilingual experience is not the same as training and understanding in Asian American Pacific Islander curriculum material. I have had an international experience and I also have multilingual experience. And it is only recently that I have learned about Asian American histories, contributions, and literature. They are not the same, and it needs to be understood in the diversity, equity, and inclusion work. Now, I am so pleased to hear about the task forces and the efforts by the West Windsor-Plainsboro teachers and administrators to support anti-bias and anti-racist education. And I just want to emphasize that infusing Asian American Pacific Islander stories is obviously an integral part of this work. The racial conversation is not just about the Black-white story. It is a story of immigration, is a story of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next individual that's registered to speak is Angelica Shin. So Angelica, I will send a link. I will send a link if I can find Angelica in the list. There she is. Angelica just sent the link.
Hi everyone, my name is Angelica. I'm currently a sophomore in college, but I'm a proud 2019 graduate of High School South, and I also went to WWP schools for my entire K-12 career, starting at Dutch Tech when I was in kindergarten. Like others here today, I am also here today as part of Make Us Visible New Jersey, and personally, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with Asian American Studies in West Windsor-Plainsboro schools. Apart from briefly going over the Chinese railroad workers in 7th grade, as well as like very briefly mentioning, the Chinese Exclusion Act and Japanese internment in AP US history, we learned basically nothing about Asian Americans in the United States, which I think is pretty strange considering our school district's demographics. Honestly, for a long time, I thought that these events basically covered it until, when I was in college, I took a few Asian American studies classes. And, looking back, on my WWP education, I think that this lack of education has done me a disservice. Even in a school district as diverse as ours, with as many Asian Americans as ours, I faced a lot of racist jokes and felt the power of Asian stereotypes about our docility and our perpetual foreignness every single year. But I couldn't even put these feelings into words, much less advocate for myself in any meaningful way, until I started learning about these things on my own in college. Because I did not learn about a single Asian American activist or civil rights leader in school, I didn't know that Asian Americans had, a rich legacy of anti-racist activism, which they do. And honestly, I didn't know that we could be activists. Learning these things by myself has empowered me, made me more confident, and helped me advocate for myself and my community in the face of anti-Asian racism. Our district is, I think, about 70% Asian American right now, and I think we do all of these students a disservice by offering inadequate AAPI education, especially for AAPI students who aren't East Asian like I am. It's a diverse community. We learn nothing about South Asians. We learned very little about Southeast Asians when I was at WWP. We also do many non-Asian students a disservice by offering inadequate AAPI education. Because, for example, the model minority myth has historically been used as a racist tool against other communities of color. And also because I think we all must be educated about all communities of color to be adequately anti-racist. So I hope that you will consider the goals of Make Us Visible New Jersey as you continue to craft more anti-racist school curricula and a more anti-racist community here at WWP. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angelica. Next speaker is Ping Shui. Ping, I'll send you a link momentarily. Ping, the link was just sent.
Thank you, everyone. So my name is Ping, and I have 2 kids in the West Windsor-Plainsboro School District. Very happily. I also have a PhD in sociology of education. So you can see that I share your passion and commitment to education, and also to West Windsor-Plainsboro School District. I really appreciate the work, the team of you have been able to put together for the kids during this such a difficult year. And also, one thing I remember years ago when I started my kids in the school district, I wrote to Dr. Adholt and said, "Wow, I love the whole child approach. I know my children are going to be safe in your hands." So, absolutely aligned with you. I am also a long-term volunteer with the Parents and Children Education Club. Some of you know me, Martin. I know you've supported us along the years. We often host annual parenting conferences and monthly seminars in the area, and we have primarily our purpose is to help first generation immigrant parents understand the importance of social emotional health for their children and for themselves, because I'm sorry this my background has some music, not great practice. Thank you for your tolerance, but I really want to be able to talk and relate to you all, and and share our our thankfulness. So yeah, along the years, we've been able to help immigrant parents, and this district, has many of them, to really support the whole child approach and social emotional learning. And last year, I started serving as the president of the organization, and I invited Millstone River School Principal Dalton. We all love him, and we were like, come and talk with us, and so today, I gotta say, I'm excited to meet the folks from Make Us Visible, who spoke before me. And I did get introduced to them by a mutual friend. And I am also joining them, actually, asking you to consider inclusion of AAPI curriculum. Because also, I think one of the written comment, Angiras Aya, so thank you for sharing that with us. I noticed definitely in the school district, parents are thinking and requesting. I also heard that this year you invited a teacher to do a professional development for teachers, on racial identity formation for students. So I see there's a shared, commitment. And the same thing with Parents and Children Education Club that I volunteer for. This year, because of my background, I was able to introduce this sociological approach, and we did 3 parent seminars, why identity formation is important for kids' social emotional health, why the racial identity formation is a piece of it, how students might struggle, in these aspects. And it was well received. We had for every seminar, we had around 300 parents attending, and they stayed, beyond the 2-hour seminar. Some of them stayed for 5 hours with us, actually. I think there's a very big need among parents to understand this. So I'm happy our organization was able to serve this need. I also am very happy. It's my first time, I think, attending the Board of Education meeting. There might be another one a few years ago when I was new to the district, but I could have been more committed. I really do want to. I have young kids, in the elementary school. So it's great to see the diverse Board of Education, and I applaud you again. I'm wondering, at the I know a lot of the changes happen in the state level. I'm wondering in the district level, what are the options and possibilities for including, AAPI history for our students to be able to, relate to it, as some of the high school students were just talking about. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity. I look forward to hearing more from you.
Ping, thank you very much. And I'm glad to hear the
Thank you.
practice in the background.
Thank you again. Again, that's the great work you folks are doing. We wouldn't have signed them up for music, but you started the flute lessons and everything. So thank you again.
Thank you. Just one moment to move Ping back. The one part about going to in person, I won't miss having to promote and move people in the chat. So forgive me as I do this. Ping, I'm moving you back to attendee. And we have one additional speaker, and Jeremy Way. And Jeremy, I'll send you a link momentarily. Jeremy, I just sent the link.
Hello, my name is Jeremy, and I'm also of Make Us Visible, New Jersey. I'm also one of the student coordinators for Pan-Asian American History Month at the high schools, and I have worked closely with coordinating the logistics behind our speaker panels and the events. After receiving feedback from the students and my peers, it has really occurred to me how important it is to me to have Asian American and Pacific Islander studies in school, because they show us a greater number of perspectives of what makes us Americans. And by limiting it only to the white view, it does not give us the full picture of our society and our history. Asian American and Pacific Islander studies allow us to correctly position ourselves and others into a lens of Orientalism, and also allows us to see beyond how one particular group of people conveys their ideas. As for my experiences as a student, I have noticed issues in how literature has been represented, especially during my language arts classes. The curriculum has often been limited to the white majority, which has caused our discussions to be rather limited. My teacher has also noticed these issues as he is teaching, and we hope that the curriculum is changed to allow for a greater understanding of how these perspectives are often missed. They can be incorporated through including more AAPI texts or providing opportunities for students to engage in further discussions. But we hope that action can be taken to incorporate AAPI studies in the curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy.
I'm just going to move Jeremy back.
And that's it, Dr. Adderhold?
That was the last public comment.
Okay, so that will close our first opportunity for public comment, and I will ask Dr. Adderhold if he has anything he'd like to say at this time.
Okay, just moving Jeremy back. And okay, so well, first of all, just thank you to all of our speakers. For the 3 that made public comment, the 5 that joined, by public comment, 3 by written comment, just want to focus on the 6 of the speakers that talked about the inclusion of AAPI, and just a little bit about the work that the district is doing with the work of the equity, diversity, and inclusivity role, and the work of the goal that was formally approved by the board in February. So for members of the public, the district has been having a conversation around equity, diversity, and inclusivity for about the last 7 years. But I will say that it's taken a more public conversation in the last 2 years. We did a lot of work for a while about training administrators, training teachers, having conversations, stepping slowly into conversations, and really trying to find our voice around having conversations. But what we found about 3 years ago is, as we included more students into the process, the students helped us move the work in ways in which teachers and administrators truly couldn't. It was having student voice at the table that really started to shift the dynamic of the conversations. So we've been very pleased to have student representatives working with us throughout. In fact, we had a student representative that came to the curriculum committee just recently to talk about pilot texts that we're working on through our language arts curriculum, and with our social studies curriculum. I believe it was AS1 with Mr. Cooper, the social studies supervisor. And what we found is we, as a district, have to make an intentional effort to think about the inclusion of diverse viewpoints into our curriculum, because what individuals might not know, and I know in the Make Us Visible platform, it talks about not just West Windsor-Plainsboro, but about New Jersey and efforts in New York about changing the curriculum and the standards statewide. And that there's a reason for that. And without having conversations directly with Connie and her team, if we look at the social studies standards written in 2014, and if you just simply do a search, so you can do a word version and just do a search of the standards, the term disabilities is only referenced 1 time. The term Asian is only referenced 6 times, once as you're Asian, so really 5 times. Majority of the time is very similar to what Angelica referenced. Only very specific points in history, points in time in the standards. Our curriculum is written to those standards. So if the standards themselves do not reflect a diverse education, in African Americans 13 times, Black is referenced 1 time. So there's a void in the curriculum standards for diversity and representation in our curriculum. So what ends up happening is curriculum is written to the standards, and then ultimately to resources and materials that you utilize. And that's a traditional model. That is not how we're currently approaching it. And a real credit to Dr. Nathan, our equity leadership team, and the support of the board, that we're looking at how we train our curriculum writers, the resources and materials that we're looking at. We're talking about representation of our community and our students in the curriculum. And so there's a dynamic conversation that's been going on for the past 2 to 3 years, and has really evolved and actually strengthened through the pandemic. And we're extremely proud of that. One of the things that has really helped leverage the conversation is pointing to a strategic goal. So the work of this board to point to goal 4, and goal 4, just because we have 3 goals already awarded. We talked about equity prior as being inclusive across all 3 goals. And then we really felt that it was important to specifically point to the work that we're doing around equity, leverage a specific statement. So the goal says West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District will cultivate a diverse and inclusive community where members of every race, sexual orientation, gender identity, ability, religion, socioeconomic class, ethnicity, and national origin are welcome, valued, respected, and celebrated. And once the goal was adopted in late February, it came in the month, Black History Month, in the celebrations and work that was happening with Black History Month, followed by Women's History Month celebrations, AAPI, right now Pride Month, and then Hispanic Heritage Month that will be coming is in mid-September to mid-October. But we also recognize that it's great to do the celebrations in the month of and recognition, but it has to be embedded and cultivated within a larger conversation, a larger dynamic in our curriculum and conversation. That's going to take professional development. To Christina's point, that's going to take a really concerted effort, and it's going to take require us to look beyond the traditional resources that we've used, because textbooks historically are written for 2 states. And I say that as a former social studies supervisor, in that big states drive purchasing. So California standards, Texas standards have a tendency to drive the national textbook companies. So we have to look for resources outside of the traditional text. And we've really started to take a big lift on that. We've had teachers advocating for diversity of resources. We've made an effort this past year, 2 years, to diversify our classroom libraries in our elementary, middle school, and high school level. Kathy Riley has been lifting that work in middle school and high school. And again, so it's going to be a fluid conversation over time, as it's going to take time to do the training and to think systemically and to constantly reinforce and build. But we're looking for partners, and we're pleased to have so many community members and alumni and students that have come out this evening. And as with all goals, the equity goal is no different. We will be looking for community representation within our goals. We have 4 subcommittees. One is on curriculum instruction. One subcommittee is on programs. One is on policies and structures. And we talked about policies and structures big picture, because it's one thing to have a board policy, but there's things in the student handbook that fall outside of the policy manual. That fall outside the policy and regulations, but are still structures that exist that could be barriers. So we talked about policies and structures and professional development. So we're looking at and working with all 3 of our other goal teams. Goal 1 is really about curriculum instruction. It comes across the other 3 goals. Goal 2 is on global citizenship. Goal 3 is on the social emotional learning and mental health of our students and faculty. And goal 4, of course, is on equity. So we just met today with our co-chairs. We're just launching our revised goal committees, because we've had a lot of retirement and shifts, as you heard some of that at the beginning of the meeting. And we're looking forward to continued conversation and partnership with our community. And with that, I'll say thank you to the speakers again, and I'll leave it at that, Ms. Case.
Thank you, Dr. Adderholt. As the board committees did not meet since our last meeting, so we'll just move ahead with the consent agenda, which is the portion of our meeting where we vote. Could I please get a motion on administration items 1 through 8? Tony and Martin, are there any questions or comments about the administration items? Thanks, Chris.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Flores.
Yes.
Okay, next is Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
And Ms. Kish.
Yes. We did not have any curriculum and instruction items, so can I get a motion on finance items 1 through 10? Louisa and Lloyd, are there any questions or comments about the finance items?
I have a question.
Okay.
On the lunch rates, are the meals next year for all students next school year, are they still free of charge as part of the federal program? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It will
So
be.
for the 21-22 school year, the federal government has come forward to say lunches would be provided to all students as an opportunity. The district does participate in the federal program and will honor that. But I will say that the rates are still necessary to set and board approve for the purpose of reimbursement for the cost of the meals. So we still have to have a meal rate approved for the reimbursement component, even though they will be free in participating in the program.
And a free lunch will be a base lunch. If by chance the year goes on and we end up with an a la carte menu, if by chance, then prices will be set.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Chris.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug,
Yes.
Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Maliga,
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yeah.
Ms. Zovich,
Yes.
Mr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Juliana,
Yes.
and Ms. Case.
Yes. Could I please get a motion on personnel items 1 and 2 plus our personnel addendum? Robin and Graylin. Are there any comments on the personnel items? Thanks, Chris.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Krug,
Yes.
Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Maliga,
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield,
Yes.
Ms. Zovich,
Yes.
Mr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Ho,
Yes.
Ms. Juliana,
Yes.
Ms. Kish.
Yes. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge 2 retirements that we voted on. 2 teachers at Community Middle School are retiring. Kathy Fenton, a math teacher, is retiring after 18 years of service to the district. And Swaylin Pai, who teaches Chinese language, is retiring after 12 years in the district. So I want to congratulate them on their retirements, wish them all the best, and thank them for their service to our students and our schools. Do we have any liaison reports tonight? Do we have any new business? Brings us to the second opportunity for public comment. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who submitted written comments to the board secretary prior to the submission deadline for this meeting, and from those who have signed up on the form to comment via video and/or audio that was open and available on the district website up until the start of this second opportunity for public comment. Any written comments that were submitted prior to the deadline for this meeting will be read aloud by the board attorney for 3 minutes in accordance with board policy 0167. Members of the public who did not submit written comments and who have signed up will be offered the opportunity to make their comments via video and/or audio. Members of the public will not be permitted to submit both written comments and make additional comments via video and/or audio. Each comment shall be directed to the presiding officer, not individual members of the board, and must be made in accordance with the procedures and 3-minute time limit set forth in board policy 0167. If the comment extends beyond 3 minutes, speakers will be asked to conclude their comments and may be muted by the moderator. Once an individual has finished their comment or their 3 minutes has expired, their audio and video will be turned off by the moderator. This public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes.
We do have one public comment this evening, and that's Andrea Bean. So I'm going to promote Andrea to panelist.
Hello, good evening. I'm Andrew Bean, and I'm the president of the WWPAA. And I'd just like to make a comment thanking Mr. Earl for all his work and service on behalf of my colleagues. We've really enjoyed working with James. He's been great as the assistant superintendent, and it's going to be a giant loss for our district. Just personally, I work with James on Mondays at food distribution. And James brings such joy to everything he does and positivity. And he's behind his mask, you could still tell he's smiling all the time. And no job is beneath James, whether it's like, can you get us some milk? Can you pick that up? He's there. I mean, I was carrying a box. He's always, can I help you? Can we do this together? And that's the kind of spirit that he brought to his role as assistant superintendent. I mean, I see it in the small way on Mondays, but I also saw it in a large way in his role. And he will be seriously missed by my colleagues. So on behalf of our entire association, I really wanted to thank him for the time that he spent with us, thank him for the learning that he's done with us, and wish him the best in his future endeavors, because we will miss him. In addition, on a personal note, last board meeting, you accepted Bruce Samastrelli's resignation for the purpose of retirement. And I just want to say that I have worked with Bruce. We were both hired to start September 1st, 1987, and we worked together every single day. He is an ultimate teacher who embodies everything about our district that is great. I have seen him teach on the mezzanine at South with hundreds of kids right before North was built. It was so crowded and never lose his cool. I have seen him advocate for his world history curriculum to be inclusive. And this was in the 90s and just pushing all the time for children. And then I saw him advocate for his fellow teachers with dedication and passion, but always putting the children first. I know that I will personally miss Bruce, and I just wanted to throw that out, that's a giant loss. So thank you for giving me my 3 minutes of time. Thank you for that great celebration of everybody. I'm so glad you found a way to do it virtually, and have a good evening.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrea. That's it, Dr. Adderhold, for
That's
that.
it.
Okay, so that will close our second opportunity for public comment. Since tonight is the last time that the board will be meeting before the last day of school next week, I just wanted to end our meeting by extending some heartfelt appreciation to the entire WWP community for their patience and perseverance and grace as we navigated this unprecedented and exceptionally challenging school year. On behalf of the board, we thank all of our students and staff and their families for working together to take care of each other. And I need to take 1 minute to acknowledge the tremendous leadership of our superintendent, Dr. David Adderhold, who never sleeps, who brings new definition to thinking outside the box, and has managed our school district with the utmost of integrity. Dave, the board and I cannot thank you enough for always working with great care and concern and empathy for our students and staff and families. So I just want to remind everybody that this is the last time, I hope, that we are meeting virtually, that our next board meeting on June 22nd, as Dr. Adderhold mentioned earlier, is going to be held at Grover Middle School in person. And we're looking forward as a board to getting back together with each other and hope to see some members of our community. So for one last time, I'm going to look around these squares and get a motion to adjourn. Rachel and Graylin, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. We are adjourned. See you soon. Have a great rest of the stretch of school till next week, and a happy, healthy summer, and we'll hopefully see you soon. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.